for asking me again. Appreciate it.
Hey, this is Tom Stewart. I'm with Liz Trotter. Our guest today is Debbie Sardone. This is going to be awesome. This is live with Smart Business Moves. We
Woo-hoo.
haven't done this forever, have we?
No, because we were at Foundations for the last 2 weeks. So we missed out. Oh, Tom, are we getting the bad sound from my microphone again today?
No, so far we're awesome. It's
All
good.
right. I made a slight tweak. We're going to hope.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's all good. Debbie, how are you?
I am doing great. Maybe just a tiny bit stressed out because I've got my event next week. And I got to figure out what I might want to talk on or something.
Oh my gosh. We know you better than that. Oh my goodness. That is not a Debbie move.
No, I've been working on my talk for months. My husband is going to be so glad when it's over. There's two versions of Debbie Sardone. There's before CBF Live and after CBF Live. And those are the only two versions. So right now I'm in the before CBF Live mode. And
you want to tell people what you're talking about? Or is
yes. Yeah. Thank you. So next week we literally will have, hopefully we're going to break all records. We will have the largest residential specific in-person cleaning business conference that's ever happened. We have over 466 people registered right now to attend, and it's all residential cleaning companies and their office managers. This year, we invited them to bring their office managers, of course, their spouse, their business partner, anybody that's in the residential cleaning industry, because this year's theme is all marketing. It is marketing, branding, and sales, because in a recession, that's what we need more right now is more customers, more leads, more conversions.
Yep, absolutely.
And I did create a coupon code just for Smart Business Moves. So if you register, even though it's coming up on next week, it's exactly a week and 2 days from now. Or a week and 1 day from now, April 13, 14, and 15, if you use Smart 50, you get half off the registration. So Smart 50.
Apps or anything, Debbie? Lowercase, does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Just Smart 50.
Okay.
And cbflive.com.
Y'all heard that, right? Half price.
Half off.
Half.
Smart 50. 50% off.
Yeah. See, that's a good deal right there.
Thank you.
Have on here.
I take the link to the sign-up website as well as the 50% off coupon code and dropped it in chat. So if you want to be part of, I guess, a record-setting event in the residential cleaning industry, this is your opportunity.
Yeah.
I love that. Be a part of setting records.
Yeah. What's the number you have right now, Debbie?
We're up to 466 registered. That includes about 30 of our vendors. So we do have a really small vendor fair and just hundreds of residential cleaning business owners that are just fired up and excited about taking their business to the next level. I just saw a comment come in from Denise, one of our former CBF members. Denise, I would love to see you there. She's been to our conferences before. Just love her.
Yeah, I think she might like you too with 5 exclamation points.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh, she made my day. Thank you, Denise.
We got Dom in here. We got a bunch
Dom.
of people. Sean's in here. Whitney's in here. We got, people don't usually talk in here. They don't usually say hi. We find out that they're here later.
They're just lurkers. Well, guys, if you're excited to be here on Smart Business Moves today, then just type in happy into the comments, and that way we'll be able to see that you are there, you're wide awake, and you're ready to take away some gold. Sean Day is one of our vendors. We're so excited about Blue Skies being there once again at our event.
That too. I haven't seen this new logo that
Sean.
Sean's.
Yeah, so I was wondering, what are they? That's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool looking. I don't know
like
what
a badge. It's got wings on it.
Fancy schmancy.
Yeah, it looks like they're starting an airline.
It's too small to be able to see on my screen. I want to know what it is. So, it's a new podcast. That's what it looks like as a podcast. That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. Hire, lead, and chill. Hire, lead, and chill. Hi. Cool.
All right.
HLC. Nice, Sean. That's awesome.
Okay.
All right. So we are talking about today, though. What were we going to talk about? You guys told me, and I don't even remember.
Come on, Liz. Nope, we're gonna set. Wait until you remember.
Oh man, Liz, you are on the hot seat, my dear. It's slightly controversial. Not everybody does things the same way.
Yes. All right. Solos versus teams versus, right?
Yes.
So
What's the right way? What's the wrong way? You know, all that.
yeah. That's awesome. Can we throw in there along with that? Can we throw in office, no office, cars, no cars? Can we do the whole thing?
Oh, the whole thing. We can talk about all of those models. Those are different business models for residential cleaning
Hourly
companies.
versus commission versus job ticket hour.
This.
None of us have strong opinions around these, so let's talk about it.
Uprights versus backpack.
Oh my gosh, Tom, if you bring vacuums into this, I'm sorry.
Tom, what toilet
bowl
bowl cleaner do you
here.
recommend?
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, we're not doing that. Don't anybody come up with your vacuum suggestions. Sorry.
Yes, please,
Can't do it.
please.
All right. So fill us in, Debbie. What do you think? What are your thoughts here?
Okay, so, I wrote down a few notes, so I thought I'd just pull up my notes to keep myself on track. But, obviously a lot has changed since the pandemic. And you guys know I have followed a very unique model my entire career.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I ask people is, do you ever feel like your business is broken? Do you ever feel like your business is like nonstop chaos? And here's the thing. If you're growing, you're always going to feel that way. If your business is growing, you're always going to feel like there is chaos. At times, you're going to feel like it's broken. And I would go so far as to say, if you show me a calm and peaceful business, and I would say my business runs pretty smoothly. I believe, Liz, your business runs pretty smoothly, Tom as well. We're all relatively absentee owners. In my case, I'm fully retired. But a business that doesn't have some broken pieces, that doesn't have some chaos, I'm going to tell you that business is in decline because it's not moving. There's no moving parts.
Yeah.
So growth creates a deficit and success basically creates complexity, period. So the more you're growing, the more deficits you end up creating in different areas of your company. So, if you feel broken, if everybody listening today and watching on us on here live, if you feel broken, you're probably growing. I actually talked with somebody today who said, "Oh my gosh, Debbie, my business is broken. They're doing $1 million a year." But they were in crisis. Their business is broken.
Just feels that way.
It does.
Well, you also spoke to something, Debbie, that I think is really interesting. So last week we did Foundation Scale 2.0. And so we had a bunch of speakers that were talking about how to scale your business. These are all coaches that have coached multi-million-dollar, one even billion-dollar companies. And what you said about the complexity was really important because they all mentioned how your business will naturally become complex as it grows. So your job is to be vigilant with reducing that complexity. You have to stay strong on making sure that you are simplifying at every single turn because
100%.
It gets more complex.
It actually becomes your primary role as the visionary to work extremely hard at making the complexities become more and more simple. Because the more simple that you can keep your business, the faster and easier it will grow. And that seems counterintuitive because we have a natural tendency to complicate everything as we grow. Everything from doing the laundry to fixing the vacuums, I mentioned it, vacuums, to buying the supplies, to managing the staff. Everything becomes more complex unless you work hard at keeping it simple.
Simplifying it, yeah. Well, you know what? This is actually a perfect time to bring up Maid Central because, I had said earlier that I know Tom wants to talk about the new process that you've created in Maid Central that helps with Debbie's pay program. And it does simplify things, to an amazing degree. So Tom, maybe now is a good time to talk about that.
Yeah, I like the idea, like roles of a CEO, and one of them should be the chief simplicity officer. You should be the person trying to figure out how to make things more simple.
Yeah.
Um, we did roll a feature out last week, which makes tiered pay within Maid Central. So, part of our discussion with solos and teams, I presume, is going to be talking about how you compensate those, solos or teams, however you do it. Incentive pay is important. And, Debbie, I know you and I have talked about this for a few years of making it really easy to do tiered pay. And really now, with the click of a couple of buttons, you can actually give tiered pay for people based upon the number of hours that they worked or the number of jobs that they did, or those types of things. So no more need to dump stuff out into a spreadsheet and kind of massage it and all of that. So um, if you're the chief simplicity officer, that would be one item off your list.
Yeah, I love that it's going to be easier for at least for those 466 people, right?
Exactly. And here's the thing with the solo model, and not everybody is going to use the empowered pay system that I've created or some other version that other people have created. But with the solo model, when you're talking about, should my business be filled with teams of 3, teams of 2, teams of 1, and in some business models, even a franchise that many of us know, teams of 4, right, where they put 4 people in a car. It's like, what is the simplest model? So when I go back to the early days of when I used to clean houses all by myself, Liz, I don't know if you ever cleaned by yourself or not. I know, Tom, your parents owned the cleaning business. So I don't know if you cleaned, Tom, but did you clean, Liz?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I cleaned for 8 years. How many years did you clean?
I don't know. Too many.
Well, I cleaned houses for 8 years, and then I struggled for another 7 years to try to figure out how to get it to $1 million. I got the $1 million mark at year 15. But one of the things that happens with a business once the owner stops doing the cleaning, right? And we call that in CBF world, once the owner becomes mop free, right? And they put down the mop permanently, is they begin to make everything complicated, right? And this is where, they try to duplicate themselves, but they can't, because nobody can clean like me, right? As a private housekeeper, I did everything the way I was supposed to do. I didn't cut corners. I didn't cheat my customers. I didn't call in sick when I wasn't sick, right? When I was a solo. But then I started hiring and I started having all these problems and complexities, and I play the whack-a-mole game, right? You have a problem, you whack it, another problem pops up, you whack it, another problem pops up. And so we begin to complicate our business. And one of the ways we complicate it is we make our team size too big. And if you think about it with the solo model, and especially in a post-pandemic world. So one of the things, I've been passionate about the solo model. I know people are curious about it and have been curious about it for years because it is a very unique model. And you and I, Liz, have talked about this a lot. There isn't one model that says this is the only way and it's the only way to be successful. If that were true, then you wouldn't be as wildly successful as you are. Tom wouldn't be as wildly successful as he is. So there isn't one way to do business, but whatever way you do business, it better be the way that you absolutely believe is the best way for your company and you're getting the results you want.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Without a doubt.
And, I do think that the solo model is superior in one way for everybody, is that it's the easiest way to make more money.
It is the fastest way to scale.
It's harder when
and
you
be
have
profitable.
You realize if we all just jump on the solos, the best way to do this bandwagon, it's going to be a boring show.
I've got some arguments for people in my circles that why they don't want to go solo. So,
well, do you want to hear a few reasons, a case for it?
Yeah, sure.
Let's go through a few reasons for it. Now, one of the things I did, Liz, during the pandemic is I beat the heck out of my competitors. I beat them up with a stick during the pandemic because I was able to say, oh, by the way, we are we social distance every day. That's a part of our business model. So we were able to use it to our advantage during the pandemic. We were able to say, oh no, we don't stuff 3 people in a small car on our way to your house. We've had social distancing since we started. So that was like a little plus for us. We were able to tell our clients that, don't worry, you can disappear into another room while we clean. And so that was just kind of handy, right? We were able to pivot our messaging. But some of the things I wrote down. What was that?
That's the thing. You really didn't have to pivot your messaging.
No.
That had always been.
Exactly. We just elevated it.
Always. Yeah.
We elevated it. And it really did help us with our messaging with our employees, who, you got to remember, during the worst part of the pandemic. Now, later on, people started getting a little more comfortable and realizing it wasn't quite what they were saying. But in the early parts of it, we were all scared we were going to just look at somebody and die. It was that scary. And so we were able to assure our employees that one of the reasons why they should be glad they work for us is they don't meet every day and cluster with 30 or 40 people in a room. And so we even used it to our advantage with our employees, and it got them to work.
Yeah.
And they came to work. So a couple of things I wrote down in my notes is, number one, and this one's a big one, hands down, you can create more revenue per person with the solo model than you can with the team model. Period. One highly incentivized solo cleaner can generate $90,000 to $110,000, depending on what market you're in and what your average billable hour rate is. One solo cleaner can generate nearly $100,000 a year in revenue. And that's if you're around 55 an hour. There are lots of companies that are charging upwards of 60 and 65 an hour. They're billing out $100,000 to $120,000 to $130,000 in revenue per solo cleaner. That's significant.
I work with quite a few companies right now that are charging 75 and 80 an hour.
Per person.
Making bank.
Yeah. Per person. So yeah, it's significant.
We're getting ready for an MCA Live event tomorrow and Friday here in Charleston. And we're pulling our core KPIs, our benchmarking information together for that tomorrow. And one of the things that we track is this metric called efficiency factor, which is the amount of time actually on a job cleaning a home divided by the total clock time. And we've not watched that number. We've been doing these events for about a year now. I don't know, we've done it like 5 or 6 times. And every time we do it, the efficiency factor number gets better. And one of the things that we teach at this May Central Live event is, if you want your efficiency factor to be high, solos give you that. And it's currently across all the companies that are using Maid Central, it's 88%. And it was down a meaningful amount lower than that when we first started doing this. And we see more and more people switching to solos because you're getting more revenue per technician, more revenue per hour. They're making more revenue per hour, so you can pay more, and with the technology, it just makes it really easy. So they can just do so much with their phone now that they couldn't in the past. That
exactly.
It's now, and you throw in the safety issue with COVID, my goodness,
it's just crazy, the benefits. The bigger the team, the harder it is to make a profit. The bigger the team, the harder it is to be fully optimized. And of course, the smaller the team, the more you can optimize the individual. And I think we all agree here that manpower is the most precious thing we have in our company. So why wouldn't we want to get the most billable hours out of each individual cleaner that we possibly can? So the bigger the team, the harder it is to make money in this industry.
And I also want to say, for the people that are hearing this thinking, oh, you're just all about the money, all about the buck. That's not it at all. The more money that the company is making, especially by this type of pay, like Debbie's calling empowered pay or job ticket hour, allowed hours, percentage pay, salary pay, whatever you're calling it, both entities make more money. Right? It's better for the cleaning professional. They're making more money.
Yeah, that's my next point. And this might be my favorite point next to, maybe it's my second favorite point, next to the highest revenue potential possible. The next point on my list is solos make more money.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to pay teams what you can afford to pay solos because you're buying so much wasted time that you don't get to bill for when you have teams. And the bigger
I
the
do have an
team, the more
argument there.
wasted time.
I have an argument for this one.
Okay.
All right. So if you live in an area where all of the homes are large and all your homes require 2 people, so you're sending a team of 2 to 2 houses in a day, then you are in a better place. Now, if your 2 houses are close together, awesome. But still, one person going between 2 houses, right? That's only one person driving. 2 people, you still got double that drive time between, even if it is just those 2 houses.
Exactly.
So it's, you can make it work, but it's gonna cost you a little bit of money. So you have to be thinking about that.
Exactly. And with the solo model, you got to figure that 90% of our clients, 90% of our recurring jobs, I'm not talking about first-time cleans. You never use solos on first-time cleans. You don't use solos on move-out cleans and deep cleans, right? Those jobs are 9, 10, 12-hour jobs. Of course, you're going to always use a team. But our typical solo recurring house, right, a single house, typically is 4 hours or less, man hours, typically. So most of our homes are 3.5 hours or less in terms of man hours. And so any solo can go and do 2 of those a day without even breaking a sweat.
And I think most companies are in that same exact boat, right? That's what most companies are planning. Once you start being in a house more than 4 or 5 hours, people are looking at live-in help, and they've got other options.
The gigantic castles, as I like to describe them as, typically don't hire us, the professional cleaners that charge at the top of the price scale. The gigantic castles that are lived in by the uber rich, just like you said, Liz, typically are looking for somebody to come 3 days a week. They're going to make beds, do dishes, clean the house, maybe start the laundry, and they're not looking to pay 55, 60, 75 an hour like you described. They're looking to pay somebody who's a private housekeeper 25 an hour.
Yeah.
We've done those studies. We were actually looking at some numbers today on that. And when you look at household income for various zip codes and various markets, you get around, north of 100,000, 150,000, you can really start getting some traction. And then as it gets higher than that, you start losing it. And, there's some zip codes, in this country and some of the markets that we help people in that are, $300,000 plus per household. And there's not much demand at all for the type of services that we offer.
Right. Because they don't have a psychological stomach for paying $300 and $400 per cleaning when they want service every week or twice a week. They don't have a stomach for it. So they might live in a 10,000 square foot house with 6 or 7 bathrooms, and they have 4 kids and 4 dogs, right? And they just don't have a stomach for paying for 10 or 8 hours a cleaning every week.
And they're looking for a much broader scope of services than what a professional cleaning service would be offering.
So I always argue that's not really my market. So the cleaning companies that think they should be going after the biggest houses in the neighborhoods have it backwards. That's not my market. It's a smaller percentage of homes anyway, unless you live in a certain, part of the country. And they're not my avatar. My avatar is the exhausted, busy professionals, the CPA, the spouse is an attorney, the kids are in soccer and piano lessons, and they're so busy, they don't have time to micromanage or hire a cheap independent. They're like, you know what, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, whoever has good ratings and answers their phone and says yes, you're hired. Those are the people I'm looking for.
I just have to point this out. Debbie, you and I know back in the day when Stephen Rowell was around, right? Nick Blast from the Past, he was saying the person that answers the phone is going to get the job. You remember that?
Yep.
How is it that we are still dealing with that, people not answering phones?
Because there are too many business owners out cleaning.
Yeah.
It isn't their choice. They're just not making it happen. I mean, if the business owner is out cleaning, number one, they're not building an empire. Number two, hire an answering service. Hire a VA. There are VAs all over the world that will answer your phones for a very affordable price.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy that
It's
we're
still common.
hearing that. A lot, right? We
Mhm.
still hear it a lot.
Exactly. I've been coaching. I every now and then I get hired by some franchisors to help them with their businesses, and I've been working with one in particular that said they desperately try to get their franchisees to use their answering service. Why not? Because when they use the answering service, the phones get answered 98% of the time. But they did a study that the franchisees that say, no, I want to save the money, I'll answer my own phones, their live answer rate was like 48%.
Right.
And businesses are not answering their phones and they are losing money.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So,
all right, you want to hear another reason for solos?
Yeah.
This one's kind of interesting. Not everybody thinks of it this way, but with solo cleaners, when you fill your company with, 85 to 90% of all the revenue we create is recurring business, right? It's not move outs and one times. So with solo cleaners, you actually have to employ all team leaders. So with the model where people have teams of 2, teams of 3, or teams of 4, they have the luxury of filling their company with half or 2/3 of the staff that aren't quite leaders. Kind of like one knucklehead and two knuckleheads and one A player is what ends up sometimes happening. I'm certainly not saying that's always the case, but what happens is you can be very loosey-goosey with what you tolerate with your staff. And you can tolerate C players as long as there's one A player on the team to micromanage them. But with the solo model, everybody has to be independent and mature and responsible.
All right. So the argument for teams then is that because of that, you have a much wider pool, right? Especially if you have people that are good at managing B players. Now, I'm highly not recommending any C players.
Right.
But there are quite a few great B players you bring on that if you manage them well, will become A players.
Exactly.
They're managed well. C's, that's too much work. And
Exactly.
right, we're not therapists, we're house cleaners. So leave the C players to somebody else.
Exactly.
A's and B's. So that is you have a much wider pool. It's much deeper pool if you're hiring teams. So that's can go both ways, right?
Exactly. Now, I also will say that a lot of B players are just hiding C players, right? It's like we kind of suspect, but we keep giving them a second chance. So oftentimes, because we need them, we will classify people that we know in our gut are truly C players. And they do just enough to keep from being fired, except they do everything to get fired the day before I go on vacation and they wreck my trip.
Yeah, those people.
And sometimes they might even be an A player, but they're lacking the transportation. Maybe they don't have a driver's license. That by putting them together as a team, they're able to produce revenue for your company where if they had to be a solo, they couldn't.
Exactly.
I've also seen some really amazing A players that lack the confidence to know that they are A players or to go out as solos. So a lot of times those people, great coming in as a team, and then we can split them up.
Exactly. Exactly. You can develop them with different types of leadership training and, personal development programs, which I think is so important. But I think one of the problems with teams is it just ends up allowing us as business owners, especially the business owners that really struggle and don't have a system. They don't have a proven system. They're just winging everything. When we have teams, it sort of allows us as business owners to get away with tolerating too many of the wrong people. And you don't have a choice when you have solos. You absolutely do not have a choice. And so, yeah, I agree. If all of us had A and B players, it would be a perfect world. But in most cases, we have A and C players, and we have a lot of B players that we just tell ourselves they're B. but they really aren't in many, many cases. It sort of allows us as business owners to tolerate things we shouldn't. And it really forces us to run our business in the way we always meant to, but somehow it slips away from us during crises.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with most of that. I know that we do run into people that, like, I run into a lot of business owners that a large part of what they want to do is develop people. Yeah. And they want to do that. And I know you run into that a lot too, Debbie, where they want to develop people more so sometimes than make money or, other things.
And when you say develop people, are you like talking about trying to turn them into something that
like fix them?
Or maybe they can't be? Yeah, fix them.
They fix them, right?
And then you hear them saying, "I'm just too nice."
Exactly. So here's what I call bullcrap on the owners who say, "Oh, I'm just too nice." Yeah. I will put them on the spot and say, "You're not just too nice. What's happening is you have no leverage, and it's humiliating that you're tolerating things that you really wouldn't tolerate if you had leverage." And how do you gain leverage? You create a job that is so compelling, people don't want to quit, and they're terrified of being fired. I don't mean terrified meaning you're a tyrant, but I mean they don't want to blow it by their own dysfunctional and bad behavior. And so a lot of times owners give themselves a pass by saying, "I'm too nice," when the reality, I used to do it too, Liz, because I was too humiliated to admit, no, I'm not too nice. They're walking all over me.
You have no boundaries.
They're walking all over me. And I can't even put up a boundary. My rude awakening almost 30 years ago now, that tells you how old I am, was when I realized I had this one employee that had had 30 absences in a single year, and I still couldn't fire her because I didn't have anybody to replace her. I needed her that badly. That was my rock bottom moment. And I had to look myself in the mirror and go, it isn't that I'm too nice. I would fire her butt tomorrow, but I don't have anybody to take her place because my pay was too low and my teams were too big and I couldn't afford to pay well. And it was just this dysfunctional cycle that was wrecking my life and made me want to quit and go do something else.
Yeah. Getting out. I mean, man, Debbie, that was downer right there.
It was painful. I can remember it like yesterday. Yeah. I remember she had long red hair, 30 absences, and I still couldn't fire her. Now I have an 8 absent policy. And obviously there may be an occasion every now and then where there's truly a legitimate reason why we would bend that policy. But for the most part, the people who don't want to work, I've been talking about quiet quitting without knowing that was a term before now for 15 years. Ever since I started coaching 17 years ago, I've been talking about quiet quitting. And quiet quitting is people who take a job and then spend every opportunity they can to work as little as possible. Yeah. Right? And that's what happens to us in this industry because we've created a job that's not worth it. Right. And so they get hired and they figure out every way to Sunday to not work.
This kind of ties back into what, Liz, you were talking about earlier in terms of profit. And it's not about profit just out of greed, but it's like it's a virtuous circle. If you can create awesome jobs, you're going to provide great service. You're going to build a company that's worth owning and operating, and all of that's kind of fueled from the profit. So you have to, it's almost like an all or nothing thing. If you're not hitting that on all fronts, you have bad jobs, you're providing bad service, you're miserable in your business, and you're not making any money either.
It really is an all or nothing, Tom, because the business owners that are not making this business work because it's so labor intense and it's so personal. When you work with people every single day, lots and lots of people are delivering your success or delivering your failure. It is an all or nothing game. You either have to get this right, or most people will secretly say, I want to go do something else. And I know you talk to them almost every day, Liz, and I talk to them nearly every day. People that are like, this is my last chance to fix my broken business. Otherwise, I'm going back to real estate. Or I'm going back to teaching or selling Mary Kay.
Yeah. Don't even care what, but it's not going to be this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. People get burnt out. this is not a business for the faint of heart. That is
No.
for sure. And anytime you're working with people, that's a huge part of your job. That's another message from the scale workshop last week was, one of your main jobs, if you are going to scale, is yes, you've got to grow yourself. You've got to, it's an inside job. Absolutely. But you got to grow that team.
Yeah.
If you are not committed to growing your team, you can't scale.
I think it's very hard to grow a team. I think it's impossible to really grow a solid, healthy, happy, long-term team that literally attracts people who will make cleaning a career, which is unheard of in our industry. Everybody thinks cleaning is a stepping stone to a real job, but it doesn't have to be. And I think the goal of the owner, as they scale their business, besides keeping things simple, which is absolutely vital, is to create a job people love to show up for. And most of us accidentally create a business nobody wants to work for, or certainly doesn't want to work long-term for. And we hear things like, oh, I'm just burned out. I don't even believe in burnout, not for residential cleaning. We're not, you know how hot it gets here in Texas, Liz? We're not nailing shingles on a roof in a Texas heat where it's 110 degrees up on the shingles. Okay, those people might get burned out, and they do it all day long. So this is a myth where people say, well, my cleaners are burned out. We have our cleaners, we hire them as full-time only. And you talk about shrinking the labor pool.
Oh, yeah.
I shrink my labor pool on purpose. I don't want the C players. I don't really want the B players. I get them, but I don't want them.
Yeah.
And I only want people who are willing to work full-time. So, people say, well, with a solo model, they can work full-time without getting burned out. Full-time. And we expect them to work full-time. You're not going to bill out $90,000 a year per person with part-timers. You'll need double the staff. You'll have double the chaos, double the overhead, double the taxes when you have a whole bunch of part-time workers. And so that's another case for solos. They can work full-time.
Do you find it harder in 2023 to find people who want to work full-time? You hear about work-life balance and all kinds of
I hear people ask that question, Tom, but that is the same argument I've been hearing and telling myself 30, 40 years in this business. Was there ever a time in your business where people didn't, people wanted to work full-time and wanted to work hard? No, it's no different.
Had that experience. People always did until recently. We never had trouble getting people to work full-time. We had people wanting to do overtime and wanting more hours.
Yeah, we never, ever have felt like everyone is raising their hand saying, I want to work, right? I mean, it's always been a struggle to find those people who do raise their hand and say, I want to work and I want to work full time. My argument is the same people 20 years ago that would say I'm available full time, but they always made sure they never worked 30 hours because they would call in a half a day on Friday, or they would call in on Monday, or they would turn down jobs on a Wednesday. They would always make sure they never worked a 35-hour week or a 36-hour week. I mean, they paid lip service to it, but that's another case for the solo model. With the solo model, I can ensure that they work and clean and bill out about 7 billable hours a day and still have some time for drive time without going into overtime.
So Matt and I, when we were in Portland together running this office, this is before COVID. I can't tell you how many people told us this exact thing, that it was inhumane to work a 40-hour week. And that is ridiculous. That's, you spend more time working than you have living your life. Yeah.
You mean owners would say that, or homeowners?
No, cleaning professionals.
Meaning the house cleaners or the owners?
The house.
And when you say cleaning professional, you're using the term loosely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know who says that.
Yeah. Every single person that applied, and this was before COVID, was like, what?
They said that's inhumane.
Yeah.
This is
wow.
Inhumane.
I mean, I'm sure people have told us that before, but they're not my avatar. I would love it if if a job candidate would say that in the interview, they would save us so much grief. It's like, oh, good. I don't need to waste any more. Now, you don't say that verbally. You simply say, oh, thank you so much for your time and best of luck to you. But it's like, just like a bad fit customer. I love it when a bad fit prospect on the phone for service tells us up front, oh, that's ridiculous. I would never pay that. That's the perfect end of the conversation. It's like, great.
15 minutes.
You're not going to waste my time. So that's the perfect candidate that will reveal that up front. The problem is there are people who take the job who say, oh, yes, I'm available to work full time, and they never meant it.
Right.
That's very true.
Yeah, I would rather they raise their hand early on in the process. So that is part of our vetting process is, are you available full time? Are you willing to work full time? If the answer is no, it's like they don't even make it to the interview.
So one of my favorite questions around that is, instead of just asking, are you available or are you willing, is what do you think about people that work full time, 40 hours a week? What do you think about that? And
that's a good one.
If they say, wow,
crazy.
That's crazy. That's too much. Or, good to know. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
It's interesting that people will say stuff about other people that they won't admit to about themselves, right?
Exactly. No, that's a really great one. I'll have to tell my team that one. Just ask that great question. What do you think about people that work full time?
Yeah.
I actually fired an executive for one of my companies that I will not name over the last 20 years. And I truly believe he was on salary, he was paid very well. I truly believe his philosophy was 40 hours a week, that's for workaholics. I really believe that. And as soon as I figured that out, he was gone. I'm like, no, 40 hours a week, that's part-time for me.
Yeah. I have been saying for at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years now, that I do not think it's very far down the road before overtime is going to kick in at 35 hours. Because that's possibly a big push that we're hearing, that 40 hours is.
Are you hearing that on the West Coast, Liz? I mean, you guys usually start all that discussion.
Isn't that insane? It's kind of like all these dumb people who have never written a paycheck are trying to make rules for all of us who write paychecks. It's like, we all just go back to doing all your other dumb stuff. Leave us alone. We got this.
Kind of a lack of logic in all of that is that we know objectively that the workforce is shrinking due to demographics and everything else. So who's going to, there's going to be fewer people to do work. And then if we're telling all those fewer people that you should be working fewer hours, that's not helping the situation.
No.
Yeah. Well, again, it's dumb people who have never hired employees in their lives telling us how to manage our employees. That's another subject, though, isn't it?
It is. It's another subject. All right. What do you got? What's another point there, Debbie? You got a couple more points on there?
With the solo cleaner model, here's what I love about it. Obviously, you have to have a very unique formula for business. I have a very unique approach to business. It's not for everyone, but with the solo model, if you follow the method that I teach, the CBF way, you can literally assign your A players their houses, and they can go and do their 2 jobs a day and bill out about 7 billable hours a day and go home. So there's less time for even the employee who's, going to the office and picking up equipment and meeting their teammates and then chit-chatting and grabbing coffee and then out the door and then back at the end of the day and dropping off stuff. So you can literally reduce at least 2 trips a day to the office and back to the office at the end of the day if you use the solo model and you do the CBF model that I teach, which is unique. So we have less drive time for all of our solos. They're literally, if they do 2 jobs a day, so a typical solo will do about 10 to 12 jobs a week, depending on how many billable hours per job. A small house, they'll probably do 11 or 12. But if they do just 10 jobs in a single week, they'll probably bill out close to that 35 job ticket hours if the homes are sizable enough. And technically, they'll only have one trip between house A and house B because they can leave from home to the first house. Now, there's a layer of complexity to make sure everything is set up correctly before you do that. We could spend all day talking about that, but it does allow you to eliminate those 2 trips a day to and from the office.
So their workday starts when they get to their first house, and their workday ends when they finish the second house. So their
Correct.
efficiency is really high. Their clock hours is relatively low. The revenue per hour is higher. Their pay per hour is higher. It's a beautiful thing.
It's pretty crazy. And I hired an attorney out of Washington State, because I know Washington's probably one of the strictest places on the planet, to just give our CBF members some guidance about, all right, well, if there's a vacuum and a bucket in the car, is the trip from home to the first house, is that considered legal time? And he said it is not. But obviously, you always want to make sure that every dime, every minute that a person could legally be perceived on the clock is covered by minimum wage or above. So even if you're on a commission structure, right, and people aren't paid for drive time, you have to know exactly how many legal hours they spend on the clock. And I think morally, you should know this, whether your state mandates it or not. Yeah. You should know if your staff are putting in 40 hours with drive time or 30 hours with drive time or whatever, so that you are completely assured that you are fully in compliant with your state laws for minimum wage.
That's federal anyway.
Yes, exactly.
That's
federal.
You have to be compliant, and you're obligated to be compliant. So, the solo model allows you to pay commissions, you have less drive time, and to be compliant in certain states that don't like the commission structure. You have to make sure that they are paid in such a way that you are compliant, and then you can bonus them your different structures and your different levels on top of the minimum wage.
And the cool part about that is, in 2023, with the technology that's out there, all of that is basically managed by your cleaning professionals, just doing the stuff that they do on their phone every day, and it's all automated. So back to being the chief simplicity officer, it sounds hard when you talk about it, but
it's simple.
There's tools out there where it's really done for you.
Exactly. And because my model is so different, I don't, I have like 47 to 48 cleaners on any given day. It could be 46 today or 45, but I have about 47 to 48 cleaners on any given day. We service about 800 recurring clients. We do our run rate right now is 3.1 million. And that's all done with 45 to 48 cleaners. Most companies need 45 to 50 employees to do about $2 million in revenue because of the time lost. So with all those people, I don't have to park a whole bunch of cars because I don't buy cars for people. I don't have cars to maintain, oil to change, tires to rotate.
Insurance claims,
cars to wash. We don't have any of that. We have none of that. They drive their own car. They're responsible for their own equipment. And guess what? People don't lose stuff when they work solo. When there's a team of 3, who broke the vacuum? Not me. I didn't. When there's a team of 1, who broke the vacuum? I guess I did.
And I don't have any numbers around this. Oh gosh, I'm not supposed to be I'm trying to not be.
You're supposed to be taking the other side of the arm.
You're supposed to be sticking up for the team.
I'm trying, but I do have to say this one. When you have solos, I don't have numbers around this, but I would bet big money that there's less theft when there's just one person in a house. I mean, I have no.
That would be an interesting concept. I think the other way people ask is, aren't you worried about theft when you have solos? That's usually the question that comes up. Yeah. And I don't know that I can prove that there's less theft, but without a doubt, a team of 3, each person in that home cleaning is alone in a room. Yeah. And so if you have a thief working for you. They are going to steal, whether they work alone or they work in a team of 3. If you accidentally hire a thief, they will steal. And being in a team doesn't prevent that.
But it's easier to figure out who the thief is if you're doing so.
Exactly.
So I do think you can hire a couple things. If you have 3 people in a house, you have 3 times the risk, right? That you have first off. And then if you have a thief, they might choose to steal other places because they're the only one in the house, right? Yeah. So I think that the chance of theft goes down with solos. Again, I don't have any numbers there.
Right. I don't have proof. My gut tells me that is possible because, I mean, in 40 years of business, I probably haven't had a dozen legitimate theft claims. I bet I haven't had 5 or 6 legitimate theft claims. Now, I would say we've probably had a couple of dozen where the customer over the years called up and said, my such and such is missing. And then a week later they called up, or the day later they said, I found it. Yeah. But it is rare. And I think it could be because in the solo model, there's only one person to point the finger at and they know it.
Yeah. They're on the hot seat all the time. Yeah. So
there's one other point about solos. I want to make sure that we get it in here before, the hour completely gets away from us, is it makes it easier to get the same cleaning professional back to the same home on a regular basis. And that does a couple of things for you. You get customer retention. The lifetime value of your customers go up because they're happier when they get the same person back. Yeah. And your cleaning professionals like it better. And we were running numbers getting ready for the MCEA Live event tomorrow. And it was over 50%. I can't remember, 54, 57, something like that, percent of all Maid Central companies have a customer churn rate of 4% or less, which we know, doing this for a long time, the average is typically 5 within the industry. We've been seeing more and more of those companies. A large part of the companies on Maid Central are doing your model, basically, Debbie. Yeah. A lot of them do tiered pay, as part of the incentive off of, we call it loud hours, you call it job ticket hours, but it's the same thing. And technician turnover, this is really crazy.
Dramatically lower.
Yeah. The top 25% of the companies have an annual attrition rate of 82.5% or lower. So it's less than 100% for the larger companies. I don't know what the average is because we don't have all the numbers pulled together yet, but your churn on both customers and employees is going to move in a meaningful way if you successfully implement.
Exactly. And so I will do a little tooting of the horn for the CBF model because, it's easy for us to kind of toss out all these tips, right? And random advice doesn't usually transform a business, right? No. We really do have a turnkey system to make the solo model work. You can't just rip the Band-Aid off and create all this disruption in your company and not expect it to explode, because there are dynamics within the solo model that you got to be aware of. If you don't do it right, just like your other model that maybe wasn't working and that's why you shifted, it won't work either. So the whole CBF model, we have the empowered pay system, which is completely unique to the industry. We have an entire system around how to manage, motivate, train solo cleaners, how to pay them. Without the whole, concept around it, it's a little scary to just anecdotally tell people this is a great model. Because like Liz, you have a whole turnkey system in your business and it works beautifully. And you couldn't just rip off parts of it and say, oh, I think I'll go do that. Yeah. Or you'll break something else. And so there is a case for, if you're going to do it right, if you're going to transition to the solo model, go all in. Don't try to guess your way to what works and then start stepping into landmines and explode your business. Just look us up, go find Cleaning Business Fundamentals and talk to us after our event, and we'll help you transition.
And just to make sure that everybody knows the opportunity, it's cbflive.com. The link is already in chat, but we'll drop it again. And we have a 50% off code. And this is, when does this event start? It's next week, right, Debbie?
It is April 13, 14, and 15. So it's not too late. You've got more than a week to get there. It starts Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And Thursday, we're talking all day about branding and really how to power your brand. Because in a recession, you had better stand out. You can't lower your prices. You have to stand out from the competition. And we will do a Cleaning for a Reason gala Thursday night. So Cleaning for a Reason, obviously you guys know that's my signature program that I really love. And we do a gala. This will be our second annual gala where everybody gets dressed up and the ladies wear pink ball gowns and some don't, but they wear a lot of pink and the guys get all dressed up with their pink ties. And we do a really fun gala that Thursday evening. And we recognize the top Cleaning for a Reason partners from around the country that are in attendance. So we have awards and trophies and all kinds of special recognition for the ones that have cleaned for the most patients all year long, as well as awards and recognition for those who have raised the most funds, because not everybody is a part of Cleaning for a Reason and can serve cancer patients for free, but they do fundraising. And this year, John Barrett, Executive Director of ISSA, will be at our gala, and he'll be speaking and thanking and helping us honor the Cleaning for a Reason partners. That's Thursday. And then Friday, we have a keynote speaker, the world-renowned memory expert. Some of you may have heard of him. He's done Las Vegas shows. His name is Ron White. He is literally the world-renowned memory expert.
You remembered his name. That's good.
Yeah, I can't believe I remembered it because I could really use his help. So he is on Friday. We also have Josh Latimer coming and speaking. He's one of my favorite people. He and I are business partners in another business, and he'll be speaking. And then we have all of our coaches are speaking at the conference, and I'll be speaking. So it's 3 full days of branding, marketing, and sales. And of course, you guys know and love Derek Christian. He'll be speaking. He's got a killer talk. You know how good he is. He's got a killer talk on sales and how to convert higher and faster at the highest price points.
That's his wheelhouse. I know
Yeah.
Derek will be bringing it.
He will bring it. All of our coaches will bring it. They're really great.
All right. Well, we only have 1 minute. Tom, I know you wanted to talk about the ARCSI event.
Yeah, we're big advocates and supporters of ARCSI, division of ISSA, and they're having a regional event in St. Louis, and that is at the end of the month, April. Actually, there's several events. On Thursday, the 27th, we're doing an MCA, a Maid Central, what we call Discovery Day, and it's an opportunity to spend some time at Matt Ricketts' office, seeing how he runs his business and how he uses Maid Central as a tool doing it. The following day is a regional event, an ARCSI regional event. You get to tour 2 businesses. You get to see Matt's business. And I noticed here earlier that Stacy Willen was on the call. Stacy Willen is like the across the street neighbor. Weiland is across the street neighbor of Matt's, and get to tour both of those businesses on the same day as the regional event. And Saturday, Sharon Tinberg is going to be doing a training event on the technical aspects of cleaning. I forget exactly what it's called, but her approach to responsibly removing soil from a surface and disposing of it in a responsible way. So a lot of neat stuff packed in there for 3 days. The 27th, 28th, and 29th of April. If you're interested for more, I will drop the link off of the ARCSI website here in chat, and you can sign up for that as well. So
that'll be a great field trip, Tom. Stacy Weiland and Matt's business. So Stacy converted to the solo model. She posted here, and she couldn't believe how significantly happier her employees and her profits became. And so that'll be a great contrast for people to see, well, how does a solo model look? What does the business look like? And she's in our elite group in CBF. So she does over $1.5 million in revenue. So That would be a great business to kind of tour and see, what does a solo model look like?
Well, and I want to chime in here real quick because we didn't get to Dean's question. He really wanted to know about how does culture impacted by the solo model, but Stacy's business is very, very culture centric.
Very.
If you're going to, Dean, if you're going to this event, you'll be able to see firsthand exactly how you can have a strong company culture and run solos.
Absolutely.
And I'll give you a hint. Companies that are doing this well are using technology in some very interesting ways.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you can't rely all on technology because humans need humans, right? But technology is one great tool. But you can have a toxic, very bad culture with teams, and you can have a toxic, very bad culture with solos, and vice versa. You can have an incredible, strong, warm, loving, caring culture with either. It really does start with the leader and the core values and how you live them and teach them.
Truth. All right, y'all. Here we go. Matt.
This was fun. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Debbie.
We didn't
As always.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Matt runs his business in solos as well. So if you do the regional event, you'll be able to see that at Matt's business. I see people switching Castle Keepers. We do solos now. Sold a bunch of cars.
No way. You sold some cars.
Oh, we sold almost all of our cars. We sold a ton of cars back in COVID when used cars were getting crazy.
I sold my car. I told my husband, I don't need a car. I work from home. I was like, I'm selling my car. We had 3 cars at that time. Good for you. I'm so happy to hear that. So, all right, Liz, the solo train is moving.
I've been solo for a couple years.
Have you really?
Yeah, since COVID as well. Yeah.
There you go. Oh man,
during COVID.
Make the most money with solos, and so do they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my case, and I'm sticking to it, guys. Come find us at Cleaning Business Fundamentals if you want to learn how to do it.
Absolutely. Highly recommend that. So
Thank you.
With that being said, we're kind of done for today. We'll be back next Wednesday, 5:00 Eastern, for another Smart Business Moves.
Yes,
and I'll be full on conference mode. Thanks, everybody.
Fun.